Hello, everyone. Welcome to our online video series, Reading Hope in Trying Times. Our guest today is Linda Howard from Tyndale House Publishers. And just for fun, I'm going to let Linda introduce herself, tell us a little bit about her and what she does.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. Brian, thanks so much for inviting me. Just looking forward to chatting and getting to talk through some of the things that are going on in our world today. I am been at Tyndale House for 14 years, and I oversee all of the children and YA and most of the family products that we do. So anything from board books, from babies, all the way up to things that like devotionals and things that families would do together. We have YA books and everything in between all kind of comes under my purview. And then I also we have a publishing partnership with Compassion International, and I oversee that as well. So doing books and all kinds of fun stuff with Compassion as well. It's a great job, and I'm thrilled to be doing what I'm doing.
Well, you get to have a lot of fun. I mean, spanning all that territory.
Yeah, I really do. It really keeps the variety there, which is a lot of fun as well.
And maybe since you just got a couple of awards today, do you want to give a shout out to those books?
Yeah, we had 4 finalists in the ECPA Awards today, which was amazing. One was called Far From Home by Sarah Rubio, a picture book about really being displaced and refugees, and it's a beautiful, beautiful book. Another one that actually won is called Kirby, McCook and the Jesus Chronicles, and it's a great Bible story book, but for tweens, and it's really teaching kids to love the Bible and telling these stories from the viewpoint of like a 12-year-old boy, with a lot of humor and just that perspective that as adults we kind of forget. I think sometimes the wonder and the coolness of the Bible, and this just brings all of that back in. So congratulations to those guys for winning. We also had just a great book. It's a devotional. It's called Made to Create, and it is a devotional with all kinds of arts and crafts activities. Probably more girl focused than boys, because often girls are more into the arts and crafts things, but it's just a really great book of teaching girls kind of the basics of artistic expression and how to express your relationship with God in a beautifully artistic way. And then the last one is actually through our Compassion partnership, and it's called Giving is a Good Life by Randy Alcorn. Beautiful book about how we get as much, if not more, from giving as the people that we give to, and how connected you are to the people that you give to for the rest of your life. And you don't even know that. When you give to someone, you've affected their life in a way that connects you forever, because you've changed their life in some way, shape, or form. And that doesn't just mean money. We give of ourselves, we give of our time, we give of all of these things. And so it's really talking about just all of that. So we're so honored and excited to have that going on today, and to have won with Kirby is a thrill.
Well, congratulations. Those sound like great books.
Thank you.
We're happy for you guys. So maybe you can share a little bit about how the whole health crisis has affected you, how it's affected the publishing house, the publishing industry. Love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah. It's been a rough stretch for everybody, without a doubt. For me personally, I'm working, as you can see behind me here, I'm working at home. I'm grateful that we are in a business where we can do that, and that I'm not without a job right now, as so many people are. It's changed. I'm spending a ton of time on Zoom calls and Microsoft Teams and all of that kind of stuff, and really connecting with people in a different way. And that really just is a different way of communicating. We're very used to reading each other's body language when you're sitting across from each other and all of those things. And all you see is somebody's head now. So it's just a very different way of, even communicating with that. On a personal level, I have grandkids who are 15 minutes away from me, but my husband is working out of the house. And so we're having to be very careful because he's out, working with other people. And so we really haven't seen the grandkids very much. I normally see them, probably 4 to 5 times a week at least. So that's been very difficult for me on a personal level. But, this too shall pass, and you got to do what you got to do to keep people safe. And so that's what we're doing. For us as a publisher, things are starting to pick back up, but we really, took a pretty deep dip in our sales and stuff initially as people were just trying to figure out what to do next. Do I want to buy a book right now? Do I want to go buy toilet paper before it all runs out? And some of those things. But so our April was kind of tough, but it's really, so, we're starting to see sales pick up again, and, people really, starting to order books, and Amazon's coming back on board with books again. For a while they really weren't selling books and stuff. So, so we're seeing that start to pick up. But I'm still getting, as a publisher, I'm still getting proposals and, ideas for books and stuff. And so, thankfully I'm able to do my job and keep moving things forward. So I'm really, really grateful for that.
What is your feeling about sales of children's books versus the more general, book market in terms of its sustainability both through the pandemic and after the pandemic?
I think we're, if we've been keeping up with NPD, who does BookScan and all that, and they watch, and we've seen kids' books just like kind of soar right now, particularly educational kids' books, because parents have suddenly become teachers, which is hard. You're suddenly, it's an honor and it's hard all at the same time. You're suddenly with your children 24/7. You don't get a break. You're teaching them all day long. And then at the end of the day, you got to be mom or dad or whatever. And, you're changing hats, a ton of times a day. And you're really trying to keep all of this, in balance. And that's a hard thing. So definitely the educational books have really kind of soared. And then books in general, books that I'm seeing a lot more, those emotional type books. For us, I can give you one very specific example. Karen Kingsbury wrote a book for us 15 years ago called Let Me Hold You Longer. And it is a beautiful, sweet book. We celebrate all the firsts in our children's lives so many times, like their first step and their first, word and all of that. But we sometimes forget to celebrate those lasts. So this is the last time you're going to wake up in the middle of the night and I'm going to rock you back to sleep. This is the last time I'm going to, feed you, because you're going to start feeding yourself. It's all of those sweet moments that sometimes we forget to think about those as well, because life is just flying by. So this book really celebrates those. And there was a high school librarian from Kentucky who normally gives this book to her kids every year. And because she can't see her kids, she decided just to get online and read the book to her kids, about 400 kids in her school. And it was beautiful. She was just like highly emotional. She cried all the way through it. It was just so authentically, emotively beautiful. And Karen Kingsbury, the author, saw it and asked, Jessica's her name, if she could just share that on Karen's Facebook page. Well, we're about a weekend and almost 3 million views.
Wow.
Yeah. And we can't keep the book in stock. I mean, it's flying off the shelf. But it's just one little picture of currently what this is doing. People are feeling more emotive. They're feeling the things that they're missing, particularly because this happened at the end of the year. You don't get to go to graduation. You don't get to, I'm missing all my grandkids. Always have all these wonderful, little programs at the end of the year, and they're not going to have any of those. So you're really missing those. And so this is one of those books that just really brings all those emotions out, and really, it kind of puts into words the feelings that we're having that sometimes we can't put into words ourselves, which to me is one of my favorite things about books and music. They help put into words so often the things that we don't know how to put into words.
Very true.
So I think particularly right now, books, children's books particularly, are very important because I think they're helping us all. I think they're helping children, but I also think that they're helping parents express some of those emotions because
Good point. Good point.
Such a simple way.
Yes.
And, but I think that's true for kids' books always. That they just do. I've always said, you think about I don't know, 70,000 word nonfiction book that you're trying to, you're getting a point across. So if you're a nonfiction writer, you're getting 70,000 words to put all of that message into. And if you're doing this for a kid's book, say a picture book or a board book, you've got 800 to 1,200 words to get that same message and that same point across in this tiny little understandable, minute amount of words. And so they can do it in this really beautiful way that encapsulates it so wonderfully. So I think that is forever something that is really special about kids' book and makes them so important for, always.
How true. So one of the things we've been talking about in the series is kind of how God has supported us through challenging times in the past, and how maybe we've been able to draw on that now. So what kind of thoughts do you have on that?
I've come from a home where my parents were divorced when I was young, and have watched God. My mom raised 6 kids basically by herself after my parents were divorced. And I can remember watching, her working 3 jobs at a time, keep money on to keep food on the table and just all of those things. And watching how God provided through that whole thing for us as a family is something that has sustained me my whole life. We had a pastor who used to be, he was given a car every year by a local car dealership, to drive for the year, but he had a car of his own. Well, there was a point in time where my mom's car died, and she didn't have money to buy another car. She didn't have anything. And, the next thing I knew, there was Pastor Likes coming up to our house with his personal car, giving it to my mom.
Wow.
So that she would have something to drive because he knew what she was going through.
Wow.
And a youth pastor at that point where we were pretty much without our dad because he was so far away, who just stepped in and loved us. And I used to call him Daddy Bob because he was, just that special to us as a family. So watching how the church just stepped in and cared for us, and, how God provided those people in our lives all the way through as I was growing up. For me, it's like, how could I ever doubt that God will always sustain and take care of me, because he's done it through the hardest times of life, and still does that. Right now, talking about that Karen Kingsbury book and watching how we were, last month was so difficult for us financially as a publishing company, and then watching nobody at Tyndale did anything to make this happen. No, we didn't do some really smart viral campaign that somebody jumped on. This was just God laying it on this librarian's heart to read this book. And then somebody telling Karen about it. And then Karen saying, oh, this is just really cool that this touched her. I'm going to share it. And now providing for Tyndale in this really awesome way in this, time that's difficult. I just see God continuing, every day. And it feels like such a gift when you see things like that happen, because we didn't do anything at all. It
Well,
was all God.
I mean, good for you for admitting that, you know what I mean, and recognizing that.
Oh yeah, I would be highly ashamed of myself if I tried to take any credit for this. So we're just, I'm grateful for that and watching that happen, just in so many ways. And I think honestly, I know that there are homes where this stay at home shelter in place is really difficult, for homes that are abusive or homes that are really difficult to be in. But in other places, I see beautiful things happening where God is mending families and giving families time together and drawing them closer, and all of these beautiful things that through this difficult time, people who are allowing God to use it are seeing beautiful things happen. My oldest grandson, who's 9, gets up in the morning and reads his devotions to his siblings, his younger siblings.
Oh, good for him.
Beautiful, like, that's awesome, And my daughter was talking the other day how when school is in, it's so hard because everybody's so busy and you're rushing to get out the door, and they weren't necessarily consistently having those devotions. And now it's like every morning, here's what they're doing, and so there are beautiful things happening in the midst of this awfulness. And
Isn't that the case? You just see it left and right. Just amazing things happening. Amazing people doing amazing things.
Yes, it's a beautiful thing.
So, you've talked about several different books and such. I mean, what kind of resources, spiritual practices, books would you recommend for people now, whether it's for children or for adults?
Well, not to be cliche, but for me, the biggest thing is just being in God's Word, praying, reading the Bible for me is a huge thing, because the comfort that I find there is nowhere else that you can really find it. And I think that is a beautiful thing. So that's kind of first and foremost. Specific book, this was one of the ones that I talked about earlier, and I just have it here. But this Far From Home, written by Rubio, is one that I would just suggest for parents, because what this child is going through, leaving his home and all of the things, but it's a great kind of springboard for discussions on when things change and when things aren't what you think they should be, and all of those things are kind of encapsulated in this. And then we have some stuff online, where a discussion guide to help parents talk even more at Tyndale. So that's one that I would highly suggest. I mean, I mentioned that Karen Kingsbury one, but if you want to cry, read Karen's book, because it'll or just watch the video. You cannot watch the video of this teacher without crying. I'm just trying to think of what else specifically I've been reading. And I would say everybody's different, but I would say read things that you just love, because I think we get so caught up, I read some stuff about this too, in the, everybody's making themselves better right now. Everybody's doing classes and everybody's, exercising, and and that is great. That's great. And we should be doing those things. However, if we get so caught up in, I got to make myself better, and we put so much pressure on ourselves, I don't think we're going to come out of this well. So read something you just love and enjoy, and it's going to make you happy, because a little escapism right now is not all bad.
For sure. I know there have been several people that have talked about going back to read some of the favorite books that they've read before.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've done some of that. I'm trying to think of what all I've read so much, and I'm having a hard time giving you specifics right now, which is really sad. The classics, the Narnia, all of those type of things that are just so encouraging and give you hope. Read things that give you hope. I would personally not be reading horror stories or any of that kind of stuff right now. I'd be reading things that bring me hope and lighten my day. Yeah, for sure.
Well, Linda, thanks so much for being with us. I appreciate you spending some time in the midst of all this craziness. And I really appreciate your perspective on children's books. You know, since you're right in the middle of that and have such an expertise in that area, it's really helpful for, I think, everyone to hear about that.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you again for having me. This was really fun. Really fun.
We're very glad you could join us. Thanks so much, Linda.
All right, you bet. Thank you.